at those guys going up on stage. They look like they know what they're doing. Hi, everyone. How are you? Are we all awake? I know, it's a little bit early, right? 11? It was a late night last night? Should we start a wave over here? No? Okay. So we're here to talk about democratizing generative AI. What does that mean? Well, we hope to talk about what it means, at least to us, and maybe a little bit about what it means to you during the course of this talk. My name is Stephen Guggenheimer. I am a senior cloud application architect at AWS Professional Services. We're the guys who go out and help customers get the most out of their AWS experiences.
Hi, I'm Ananya Koduri, and I'm a senior cloud application architect with AWS ProServe as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Farid Chaloui. I am an Intel Principal Solution Architect. A fun fact, I am an ex-AWS, and not only an ex-AWS, an ex-professional services guy. So they could have been my teammate for so long. So yeah. Nice to be here and looking forward for this session.
And another fun fact, this is not the 35th time Farid has told us this. All right. So, today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. We're going to start off talking about the 3 phases of game-changing innovation. Then we'll get into a little bit about what we mean when we say democratizing generative AI. We'll talk about the Gen AI use cases and opportunities. We'll get into how the partnership between Intel and AWS started and how professional services got involved. We'll talk about the Superportal, which is something that was never supposed to be the name of it, but I guess that's the name now. We'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about open source and some of the things that we're trying to do with open source, paying it forward and look into the future, and then we will hopefully have some time for some Q&A, because I know you'll have 100 questions after this. So let's get started. So, generative AI is here, and we think it's here to stay. We also think that every single person should have the power to take part in how this new technology grows and influences our daily lives. If there are barriers, whether they're social, cultural, or economic, we in the tech world look at it as our responsibility to help remove them. Because everyone who takes the time to educate themselves on what Gen AI is, what Gen AI isn't, and what Gen AI can be, should also have the power to use it for themselves and for the communities around them. So one of our goals today is to show you what we're doing to help make generative AI more available for everyone. Another goal is to show you why it's so important for everyone to take advantage of that availability. Because whenever a game-changing new invention makes its way into the public discourse, it generally goes through 3 phases. Phase number 1, the hype. Now, I know you've heard the hype. Gen AI is the most transformative invention since sliced bread. And while a lot of the hype may very well be a bit on the hyper side, although I will go on record as saying I love sliced bread. Although every new next big thing has to face the same question. Does it really live up to all this hype? And the truth is, you can never tell in the moment exactly how big and bold and transformative a new idea is. You need context for that. And context only comes with time. But that doesn't mean it's not transformative. Those who look beyond the hype can see a lot of that transformation happening already. Now, phase number 2, the backlash. Ooh, we've all heard the backlash. Didn't Gen AI once tell somebody to put glue on pizza or something? Statements like that always remind me of that old saying from, was it Confucius?
Yes.
I think so. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Oh, it was Voltaire. Sorry. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You see, the hype phase gets us into this frenzy where our expectations go through the roof. And we start wanting this new thing to be perfect from the get-go. We have people worry that artificial intelligence is so smart it's going to take over the world. Quick aside, if you've ever seen how much work it takes to make an AI model do, well, anything, you'd quickly stop worrying about the rise of the machines. Also, that whole thing has always confounded me, because no matter how smart computers get, we still control their batteries. If my computer tries to take over my house, I'm just going to unplug it. Anyway, I was talking about the backlash. So we let the hype get our expectations way up there, and we forget that this amazing new innovation is still basically in its infancy. Then we freak out when not everything goes perfectly. We also forget that, as a very wise spider once said, with great power comes great responsibility. Voltaire said that too?
No.
I
no,
honestly
come
didn't know
on.
that. So with any powerful tool comes the power to use it both for good or to make bad pizza. Those who want to get the most out of these tools also need to take the time to understand them, to learn how to wield such a powerful weapon. Those who don't take the time to understand them may not get the best results. This is not just true for Gen AI, though. The backlash has affected just about every new innovation throughout the course of history. There was always someone standing on the sidelines, ready to make a judgment call before you fully understood. For example, hey, Ananya, heard about that new invention called the microwave?
What is it?
Forget it, it's all hype. I tried to cook something yesterday and it vaporized my fork. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Fareed, what about that new thing called Uber?
What's Uber?
Nope, don't even bother. Who's gonna get into a car with a stranger? That's ridiculous. Or, hey guys, Amazon wants to put my server in this thing called the cloud? Ridiculous. But if your game-changing innovation is the real deal, if it's strong enough to manage the hype and make it through the backlash, then comes phase 3, the new normal, where we really start to understand and accept how this new innovation is going to work with us and change things for us. So what we want to do as we prepare for the new normal, where Gen AI plays a substantial role in our everyday lives, is to make sure everyone has the opportunity to understand it and use it in ways that save them hours of time and money. And our mission on this project is to help make that happen for as many people as possible. To empower each and every person to have the opportunity to get to know Gen AI and see for themselves how it can be a game changer in their businesses and in their lives. And that's what we mean when we talk about democratizing Gen AI.
So as we said, we're talking about how generative AI technologies are becoming more accessible, more affordable, and more adaptable every day, and how we can take advantage of all of that. It's one thing to go online, type a prompt, and get a response from a chatbot, but what we're really talking here is unlocking this potential from the inside out. We're talking about how we can create the opportunity for customers to not just use this tool, but build new things using this tool. And that difference is game-changing. A Gartner study that came out earlier this year shows the effects of generative AI across all major industries. It can help answer questions like, how can it help businesses increase revenue? How can it help manage risks better? And how can we make our businesses a better place to work? But what we really found interesting in this is what happens when you compare the total effects across all industries. The possibilities for generative AI to increase efficiency is almost as high as the other 3 effects combined. That's massive. And when you think about it, there are a lot of ways that generative AI can increase efficiency. Can you give me a couple of examples on how generative AI increases efficiency right now? Anyone? No? All right, let me give you a couple of examples. We're talking about, giving a prompt and getting a concise summary for large documents. That's one way to increase efficiency. And also, think about it. The more we increase efficiency in our day-to-day life, the more time we have for the things that we really want to do, right? As opposed to the boring, repetitive things that take up most of our days. A great example of this was recently came up by our very own Amazon CEO, Andy Jassy. He said generative AI saves the company 4,500 years. Yeah, you heard me right. 4,500 years of time. And you're probably thinking, yeah, sure, it might have saved some time, but really, 4,500 years? And it would be understandable if you thought it was all a part of the aforementioned hype that Stephen was talking about. But the number wasn't pulled out of thin air. And when you hear about how they got to it, it actually sounds about right. What Andy Jassy is talking about here is Amazon Q developer or more specifically, Amazon Q agents for code transformation, which takes over the painstaking process of version upgrades. Those of you in the audience who are software engineers will know exactly what I'm talking about. Version upgrades, and more specifically, major version upgrades, are one of the least favorite things for us to do. But hey, when an old version is reaching end of life, we don't have a choice, right? I mean, the version upgrade itself doesn't take too long, but what is the painful part is you're done with the version upgrade, and then you wait for everything to start falling apart for you to fix. And you have to do it over and over and over again until two things happen. You either fix all of the bugs, or you're in that loop forever trying to fix them all. And now that makes you think, isn't there something who can do this for us? Right? Right? Yes. Yeah, I see nods. Thank you. And now the answer is yes, we do. You see, up until recently, when a major version upgrade for Java came up, it would take about 50 developer days. You think 50 is stretching it, but no, ask the developer sitting next to you, and they'll agree. And this, imagine upgrading Java's version for one system and then doing that over and over and over again for all of Amazon's systems. Now, how many systems does Amazon really have?
I don't know.
Well, Amazon is a large company. Let's say the number's around 32,872.
That's pretty specific. Did you just come up with that? It's even on the slide.
It's even on the slide. Come on, Amazon's a big company, and it has a lot of systems, right? So let's do some very quick math here to just see how we get to that number. We have 32,872 times 50 developer days. That's about a little more than 1.5 million. Now, this is in days. Let's try and do the math for years. So times divided by 365 with a little adjustment for leap years. And look at that. 4,500.
How'd you do that so quick?
I'm good at math, right? So it makes perfect sense. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that the amount of added efficiency is not just trivial. It's mind-boggling. But none of that really matters if the path for using generative AI is not accessible for everyone. Or if it's not efficient, that's not ideal as well. And when we say efficient, we don't just mean time efficient. We mean cost efficient, making it more idea efficient, and more energy efficient. And that's what AWS Professional Services set out to help Intel do.
Completely. So how did this whole thing start, Intel, AWS ProServe? It started with a problem statement that Intel had years and years and years ago. It is, how can we have the best TCO for your workloads? Intel, I work for Intel. I am on Team Amazon at Intel. So my job is for you, customers and partners, to have your best TCO on AWS. This is why I'm here. This is how it all started. So I sat with these two amazing folks, and we told ourselves, what are the use cases or the workloads that are the most used out there? So there is the workloads that are the most common, like SAP. For SAP, for example, we have so many instances. We just released one, Matt Garman have presented, which is the U7INH. It's actually called like this. And this specific instance allows you to run as big as workloads, as much as you want. So if you have a large SAP HANA, you'll be able to run it on such workloads. But this is not everything. You have, for example, you want to move your VMC workloads to ECS, to EKS. You have more than 400 plus Intel instances, I would say 410, 412, that you can use for this. HPC, the same thing. You can use our compute-optimized instances, which start with a C. And you can use the HPC instances, which are also a lot. But we didn't stop at this. We used also verticals, like GFSI, HCLS, Auto. We have specific use cases that we have enabled with our software and our hardware to deliver such enablements. But there is one thing we're talking about today, which is Gen AI. So where are we on Gen AI? Gen AI today use a lot of energy. You've all heard about it. Whenever you want to do a training, when you do inference, use a lot of energy. And why is it important? Why is energy important? Why you have seen AWS wanting more energy, NVIDIA talking about energy, and all of these companies, because it's become expensive. If you want to run any AI workload today, it means that you need a lot of energy, it means you need a lot of money. But not all AI workloads, not all needs all this compute, or all this powerful hardware. You can have smaller instances that can do the same thing. But in order to resolve this at Intel, we went back to the drawing board. We went back to the first thing that made Intel, which is manufacturing. We went to Intel 18A. So Intel 18A is our most innovative manufacturing. We have 18 angstrom transistors, we have ribbon FET, and our Power via technology. Whoa, what are these words, Steve? These are nice words.
Quiz? I don't work at Intel, you do.
Yeah, exactly. So these three technologies allowed us to reduce the power usage and increase the performance. So yes, our latest Intel 18A manufacturing is going to allow amazing things. Like, for example, there was Thanksgiving, you weren't able to travel, and you were FaceTiming or doing a call with your family. You wanted to hide your background. Well, the accelerators that are within Intel allows you to blur your background without even checking your CPU or CPU hiking. So, but we're talking about the cloud. We're talking about AWS. Why are we talking about Intel 18A? It's because we've announced a few weeks back a great partnership between Intel and AWS. This partnership is all about Intel building custom AI fabric chip for AWS. If you've heard Matt Garman a few hours back, he talked about a new Trainium instance, about inferentia. So yes, Intel is going to work with AWS on these things, and we're going to also customize our Xeon 6 chips for the usage of customers and partners that use AWS. But this is not, okay, this is amazing news, but how can you use it? How can customers say, okay, I want to take advantage of this? And this is why we said, okay, the best folks to bring this is ProServe, professional services. And as being ex-ProServe, I know how pushy they are and how effective they are. So for this reason, we said we need to get the word out. And we don't want to just get the word out. We want you to test it. We want developers, architects to come in and say, look, Intel released a new hardware. I want you to use it. And we want them to use it for free. I think I said free, no?
Yeah, you did.
Exactly. So the Superportal that Intel is building with ProServe is going to allow you to test it for free. So you'll be able to connect, check the different technologies that Intel have, and test it yourself for free. So
how did AWS Professional Services get involved?
Exactly.
So we had Fareed come up to us and tell us all of his ideas and about how he wanted to achieve getting Gen AI across to people like us sitting here. And he asked us, do you have any ideas? Is there anything that we can do? Is there anything that we can do differently to achieve this goal? Right, Fareed?
Correct.
And at AWS Professional Services, we always have ideas with this. But before we let our minds wander too far, we like to ask a lot of questions, right? And some of the questions that we wanted to ask was, which Gen AI experience should we focus on? Did you really say everyone? And did you really say free?
Again, yes, we said free.
The same questions that you have on your minds right now is something that we wanted to reassure on. And then we got together and we made a plan. The plan was for AWS Professional Services to create a software as a service, or a SaaS application, that would make it possible for users to securely preview Amazon EC2 instances powered by Intel processors, for the purpose of optimizing their own workloads, of course. Users would be able to securely preview these instances under conditions that basically mimic the various industry use cases and whatever holds closest efficiency value to them. Those previews would then allow users to know exactly which instances were optimal for their workload specifically before they start spending their hard-earned money on them. But this is amazing, but what do we call this new tool?
Yeah, and I don't remember who came up with it first, but somebody said the Superportal, and it kind of stuck.
I guess we're sticking to it.
Are we still calling it that?
Yeah, it's a nice
Yes,
name.
we are.
Okay. Are you sure?
I love it.
All right, let's talk about the Superportal. The first feature of the Superportal is the benchmarking feature. The benchmarking feature would allow us to conduct benchmark-style tests to compare Intel-powered Amazon EC2 instances across dozens of common industry use cases. Now, if there's one thing all software teams have in common, it's that they define the types of testing they do differently. That made sense, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
keep going.
Good. So let's make sure we're clear on our definition of benchmark tests. And if anyone out there wants to correct me, I already pre-acknowledge that your definition is right too. So, we're good? Okay. So, a traditional performance test aims to make sure that an application can handle workloads of all shapes and sizes. That's why it's also sometimes called load testing. Usually, a performance test is end-to-end, meaning that it tests all the different components of an app together, running as a single unit, much like the end user would experience it. It needs to be end-to-end because you want to know if your app can handle big workloads with all the moving pieces operating together. But sometimes people want to load test changes to smaller application components earlier in the process. Sometimes they call that shifting left. Now, you can't really call that a performance test because you can't really judge application performance on a single component in isolation. So what you do instead is run the test on the component before introducing the new changes. That sets a benchmark. The benchmark could also be the result of a previous test of that same component. Then you run the test again with your new changes included and compare those results to the benchmark. That's a benchmark test. So, inspired by this concept, and with the benefit of having the actual benchmark test that Fareed's team actually uses, we came up with something like this. The plan was to use Amazon EKS clusters to run these tests on sets of containers called pods, and we'd separate the major components into logical groupings called namespaces. I'm sure everyone here who's familiar with Kubernetes already knows all about all of these things. So, there's the pods with the containers right there below them, all inside that big orange cluster. And there's the namespace. So, within the first namespace, we'd place the test runner, which would take in a custom test script designed to test specific properties of the instance, then generate the mock data to imitate the size and breadth of the necessary workloads, and run the test on each instance under the exact same conditions. This means that the EKS cluster had to be backed by actual EC2 instances, couldn't use Fargate. And the instance types for those EC2 instances had to remain constant, so there's challenges with being, efficient, cost efficient, and stuff like that when you can't really adjust the instance sizes. And it also had to be large enough to manage the processes coming from the test script. So we had to keep all of that in mind as we put this together. So there is the preview instance. That's the next namespace where the test would run on the Intel-powered EC2 instance that the user had chosen to preview. And then we had the target instance. That's the final namespace. That's what would run the test on the instance setting the benchmarks that we could compare with the preview instance. So when you put it all together, it ends up looking like this. The test would run processes that incorporated any number of AWS services like Amazon Bedrock, Amazon SageMaker, Amazon OpenSearch Service. It would generate the custom metrics and export them into an Amazon S3 bucket for further analysis. Previewing the instance in this way means that you not only get to test out a specific Intel-powered EC2 instance, but that you'd have something to compare it to.
So, all this is amazing, but again, why is it important to have this comparison? Why are the new instances something important? It's because we have worked manually with customers and we have improved TCO for customers on various, for example, databases or softwares. And one of the examples that I've worked with, even before coming to reInvent a few weeks back, it was an ISV that had 1,200 DB, and they were running all this on AWS. They were running this on old Intel infrastructure. We talked to them, we sat with them, we had our optimizations, which could be newer Intel hardware, newer Intel software, and we were able to bring down all these databases by 33%. So the customer was able to save money, was able to save almost 300,000 MRR, and not only this, he was able to reduce the amount of operations that he needed to take care of his DBs. So all this brings us to the importance of having this portal and being able to compare the old versus the new. And again, thanks to AWS Professional Services, we will automate this process. So now that we have done all this manually, thanks to the Superportal, will be completely automated and we will be able to scale it to many, 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 many customers.
So let's recap. Our goal here is to help democratize generative AI by making it more accessible, more affordable, and more adoptable for everyone. We know that being able to run fast and efficient workloads in the cloud in an affordable way is one way to do it. And we know that allowing people to preview these tools so they can figure out which ones are best to optimize their workloads is another. But we didn't want to stop there, because we also know that one of the best ways to drive forward progress and innovation is through a thriving open source community.
So with that in mind, we took a great interest in an open source project that Intel is collaborating on with several other companies, including Amazon. And it's called Open Platform for Enterprise AI, or OPEA. The OPEA platform is managed by the nonprofit Linux Foundation and is operated under the Apache 2.0 license, which is the same open source license that AWS uses for many of its open source products as well, such as AWS CDK or Cloud Development Kits. OPEA's mission is to enable enterprises and deploy Gen AI solutions powered by open ecosystems that deliver on security, safety, scalability, cost efficiency, and agility. Some of OPEA's features include excuse me, a detailed framework of building blocks of state-of-the-art Gen AI systems, such as LLMs, data models, and prompt engines. The second one is architectural blueprints of retrieval-augmented Gen AI component stack structures and end-to-end workflows. It also provides a 4-step assessment model, which assesses Gen AI systems around performance, features, trustworthiness, and enterprise-grade readiness. They also have a repository filled with ready-made examples on how OPEA can be leveraged to create all sorts of chatbot, document summarizers, code generators, to name a few.
Now, truly open source products by definition have to be cloud platform agnostic, and at the core level only contain dependencies on other open source tools. But truly great open source projects also contain the flexibility to support the integration of proprietary cloud services as well. I mean, think about it. How useful would an open source tool be if you could only use it with other open source tools? What if someone wanted to use OPEA with Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 3.5 model? What if they wanted to create their embeddings for vector search using an Amazon Titan embedding model? That's what.
And that's why.
Go to you.
And that's why AWS Professional Services is now building these several extensions that Stephen was talking about that will allow users to use these models in Amazon Bedrock and Amazon SageMaker to incorporate vector searches using Amazon OpenSearch services and much, much more. But that's not all. We're also creating infrastructure as code modules that will make it easy for deployment to the cloud using tools such as Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, or EKS. In fact, there are OPEA demos happening this very week, right, Farid?
Correct.
Yeah, at re:Invent, so please feel free to check them out. They're using these very tools that we're talking about. Now let's bring it back to the point. We want Gen AI to really flourish, and for it to provide the benefits and the potential that it has for everyone. But for that to happen, we think the companies at the forefront of this technological revolution, such as Intel and AWS, should really make the extra effort of working together. We know there's always going to be competition, but for us to delight and really enrich the lives of our customers, there's got to be some collaboration as well. And as I said earlier, this is more about just giving people the power to use these tools. It's giving people the power to build using these tools. And one of the best ways for doing that in an affordable fashion is for companies like Intel and AWS to collaborate on more open source projects like OPEA. But there are other sources to contribute as well, right, Farid?
Correct. So we encourage other companies to follow what we have presented. Like, we need to make sure that we are democratizing AI. We spoke a lot about democratizing AI. But what actually means is that being able to run AI in a cheap way. Again, today, they say you go, there are open source LLMs, you go, you try to run them, and then you find yourself with a bill that is way, way too high. Not a lot of customers can afford this. So in order to do this, what we've done is that we went and we worked with partners like Reply, who built with customers to deploy LLMs and Gen AI solution and allowed highly available hosting of these environments using C7i instances. So we moved from having these big machines running LLMs to these small instances which are based on 4th generation Intel Xeon that will host the environment for a few dollars. And the most amazing about this, and what Reply told us, is that we go back to the cloud paradigm. What does it mean? It means that when I have a lot of load, I will spin a lot of instances without any problem. And once the load goes down, I will scale it back down. And these instances are available in multiple regions and with a lot of different sizes. And this is why it's amazing. And we cannot talk about AI and Gen AI without talking about Hugging Face. So today on Hugging Face, you can go and check. We have a dedicated Intel page that talks about the software optimizations, about the hardware optimization, and what is possible on AWS. And again, all this is to democratize machine learning. And we want you, all of you, to go and test these things and get the word out. And this session is all about getting the word out for you to come and learn about these things and then take them as soon as you go out of here. Open the Hugging Face page, check what Intel is building with Hugging Face, and hopefully soon enough you'll be even able to test it for free.
For free?
With the Superportal. Again, yes.
Still not sure I believe that. So when we look into the future, we don't see a reason for fear and trepidation. We see a world opened up to infinite possibilities. A world where everyone has more time to enjoy the things in life that matter. You know, because some of those dull, repetitive tasks, they just don't seem so dull and repetitive anymore because you don't have to do them quite as much. We see a future where everyone can create, innovate, and communicate faster and more efficiently because they have the right tools and they use them responsibly. We want everyone to have this opportunity, and that's really what we mean when we say that we want to democratize generative AI. So, thanks so much for coming, everyone, by the way. We know Mandalay Bay is way far away from the Venetian.
It is.
We have some time for questions, but first we want to make sure you look out for the Intel Superportal. It's launching in 2025. And if you want to see a demo of OPEA, it's at the expo right now, happening nonstop. I helped build it. Also, there's going to be a workshop for OPEA tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. at the Venetian Level 3 Lido 3104. Hopefully there's still some room. There'll definitely be some room for some walk-ups. Please feel free to get more information using any of the QR codes you see on your screen right now. Anybody have any questions?
Don't forget to take the survey.
Or comments or anything?